This happened on my second night in this small, weathered bungalow. I thought the quiet would be comforting after my tough breakup, but now this place feels heavy. I've never stopped thinking about what happened. It was snowing hard outside. I felt cozy under my blanket, sipping a cup of tea. The snow piled high against the windows. The only sound was the gentle crackling of the heater, until I heard it. A faint tapping on the window. I thought maybe it was icicles falling. It continued. Tapping, tapping. My heart started racing. I tried to ignore it and focus on my show, but it wouldn't stop. Over the next few nights, things got stranger. I started hearing giggles. Soft, high-pitched sounds that floated through the chilly air. I shook my head. I was just hearing things, right? Then I noticed a shadow darting past my curtains. I blinked. I wasn't sure if I really saw something or if it was my imagination playing tricks. My palms felt sweaty even in the cold air. One night, I decided to confront my curiosity. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The snow crunched under my feet. It was eerily quiet, except for the whisper of the wind. I looked out toward the trees. They stood still, heavy with snow. I squinted, straining my eyes, searching for any sign of life. There it was again, a quick movement. Something darted between the trees. My heart jumped. I wanted to call out, but it felt like my voice vanished in the cold night. I moved towards the spot where I thought I saw the figure. I looked down at the snow. Nothing. No footprints. Just my own tracks leading back to the house. I shivered as uncertainty washed over me. I was alone, wasn't I? I thought I caught a glimpse of something, but maybe I just imagined it. When I returned inside, I tried to shake off the feeling that something was off. I tucked myself in bed, hoping sleep would come. Instead, I lay there, wide awake, listening to the snow falling outside. Then I heard it again, the tapping. But now it came accompanied by low giggles. I hoped it was just my overactive mind. Still, I felt a chill. My heart raced. Was it real or just the echo of my imagination? The next day, I avoided looking out the windows. I stayed busy at my work, but the giggles lingered in the back of my mind. I didn't want to admit I was scared. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me. I thought I could ignore it. But it kept coming back like a bad dream that wouldn't fade. Then one night, I finally mustered the courage again. I glanced out the window, fully expecting to see nothing. But there was a figure standing by the tree. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Then it turned. But I couldn't make out any features in the dark. My heart raced faster. Suddenly, it felt closer. I blinked. I wasn't sure if I was awake or still dreaming. Then it approached. A voice whispered, "Come play." I turned to run, but I felt something cold brush against my arm. I spun around. No one was there. And that's when the tapping returned, louder this time. I couldn't shake the tapping. It drummed in my mind, frantic and persistent. I tried to block it out, but the sound grew in intensity. Each tap felt like a knock on the door of my sanity. I hesitated, heart racing, refusing to let it draw me outside again. That night, I curled up on the couch with a book, desperate to distract myself. I was determined to ignore the sounds, but as I read, the giggles crept back, weaving in with the words on the page. I let the book fall to my lap, glancing toward the window. My breath caught in my throat when I saw a figure standing in the snow, illuminated by the soft glow of the streetlight. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. Was it real? The figure was small, hunched, wearing a dark coat. I squinted, trying to see more, but it just stood there, facing the house. I felt a quiver of fear ripple through me. The giggles erupted again, echoing eerily within the walls of the bungalow. "Stay calm," I whispered to myself. It's just the wind. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I set the book aside and walked shakily toward the window. I needed to see better. With each step, my heart thudded louder. As I neared the glass, the figure began to sway gently, the fabric of its coat brushing against the falling snow. Then it turned. I gasped, stumbling back when I saw its face. It was pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare right through me. I couldn't look away, even though every instinct screamed for me to run. "Come play," it whispered again, louder this time, the voice sugary yet sinister. I felt an icy chill crawl down my spine, paralyzing me. I wanted to cry out, but the words caught in my throat. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the room went dark. Just like that, the figure was gone, leaving me in a cold silence, broken only by the deep thudding of my own heart. I rushed for the light switch, fumbling with trembling hands. When the lights came back on, the room felt suffocating. I turned back to the window, hoping it was just a trick of the light, but the snow fell softly, unmarred outside. No sign of anyone. No shadow. I felt dizzy, almost faint. The creeping giggles returned, seemingly from all around me. They bounced off the walls, circling like a taunt. I needed to leave this place. How could I have believed I would find peace here? That's when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. My phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up, heart racing, desperate for distraction. When I looked at the screen, I saw a message from an unknown number. "Come play with us." I dropped the phone, a shaky breath escaping my lips. The giggles became louder, closer. The tapping started again, now with frantic urgency. The feeling of dread washed over me, choking me. With a shaky determination, I took a step toward the door. But before I could reach for the knob, everything went black again. I woke up with a start, heart racing. The darkness clung to me like a heavy blanket. Panic surged through my veins as I glanced around the room, trying to piece together what had just happened. Was I dreaming? Everything felt too real. A soft glow flickered in the corner of the room. The dying light of the TV was still on, casting strange shadows. My phone lay on the floor, screen cracked where I had dropped it. The giggles had stopped, but I could feel something lingering in the air. A tension that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I slowly rose from the couch, my legs shaky beneath me. I picked up my phone, staring at the cracked screen as if it held some secret. The message still blinked at me, a cruel reminder of my current reality. I needed to clear my head. I needed air. Stepping cautiously toward the door, I noticed something strange near the entrance. My coat, which I was sure I had hung up earlier, lay crumpled on the floor. Unease slipped back in, twisting my stomach. I didn't remember bringing it in. Had I really left it out in the snow? As I reached for the doorknob, a loud bang echoed from outside. My heart stuttered. I froze, fingers hovering just above the knob. Breathing heavily, I forced myself to look out the peephole. Darkness, nothing but an endless expanse of night. I swallowed hard, the tapping resumed softly, almost teasingly, but I couldn't hear if it was coming from the door or the walls. Then, I caught a glimpse. A flash of movement outside. I leaned closer, peering into the night. Shadows danced, I squinted, my heart thudding painfully. Behind the streetlight, the figure returned. It hunched again, dark coat billowing as if it were in a breeze that didn't exist. "Come play," it called, the voice a haunting echo of the last time. Panic shot through me. I stepped back, but my foot caught on my coat. I stumbled and hit the table, sending picture frames clattering to the floor. Everything felt surreal, like an awful nightmare I couldn't wake from. I was trapped in a cycle, unable to escape the voice or the figure in the snow. I regained my composure and looked back through the peephole. The figure had moved closer. I could see the glint of its eyes now wide, hungry, waiting. A chill crawled up my spine as realization struck me, it wanted me to come out. No, I whispered, shaking my head. The tapping intensified again, a furious sound now. It felt like fingers drumming on my mind. I stumbled backward until my legs met the couch. Just then, my phone buzzed again, the screen illuminating the dark room with the same grim message, "Come play with us." I felt my stomach churn. What did they want from me? Desperate to distract myself, I grabbed a small knife from the kitchen counter. It felt foolish, but it gave me some semblance of courage. That's when I heard the knock. A single, solid rap on the door. It felt different, more urgent, like a warning. I swallowed hard and turned to face the door. I had to know. I took a deep breath to steady myself, my fingers gripping the knife tightly. I approached the door, the sound of my heartbeat pounding like a drum in my ears. But as I reached for the handle again, the lights flickered once more, plunging me back into darkness. And then there was silence. I stood in the darkness, heart in my throat. The silence felt oppressive, wrapping around me like fog. I hesitated, the knife trembling in my hand, unsure if I should pull the door open. My mind raced. Was the figure still out there? Could I even trust my own senses after everything that had happened? Then comes a weak flicker from the overhead light, followed by a wash of pale illumination. I breathed a sigh of relief. But just as quickly, it disappeared again, and I realized I was still in the dark. Not now, I gasped, trying to center my thoughts. With determined resolution, I steeled myself against the creeping dread that gnawed at me and pressed my ear against the door. There was a shift on the other side, barely audible footsteps crunching against the snow. My heart skipped. They were still out there, and I knew I had to make a choice. Finally, I nudged the door open just a crack. The cold air came rushing in, biting at my skin, and I flinched. The dim light from the street lamp illuminated the porch, but the figure was gone. I squinted, straining to see beyond the bounds of the light. I felt foolish, half expecting to see nothing but empty darkness. I opened the door wider. "Hello." My voice came out shaky, eluding any authority I hoped to convey. I peered into the night, scanning for any sign of movement, but my breath fogged up the cool air, and shadows danced in the periphery. And just like that, I noticed something odd on the ground, small, muddy footprints leading from the edge of my porch toward the woodline at the end of my yard. I crouched down, brushing aside the snow to get a better look. They were too small to belong to an adult, and they led in the direction of the woods. My heart sank. The figure had been luring me. Had it brought someone else here? The sickly thought sent my mind spiraling again. All I could think of was the message on my phone, the giggles that echoed in my mind, and that terrible voice calling me. I stood, my instincts shouting at me to retreat. I was suddenly aware of the weight of loneliness pressing down on me. I had to find help to escape this nightmare. But then I heard it again. The tapping. This time, it wasn't tea coming from the door. It resonated from inside the house, soft, rhythmic, like someone drumming their fingers on the walls. Panic surged through me, and I rushed back inside, closing the door firmly behind me. I locked it, chest heaving. The tapping continued, growing louder, echoing through the darkened room. I darted toward the kitchen, where I had left the knife. I needed to be ready. But then, as I reached for the knife, I caught my reflection in the window. My face was ghostly pale, wide eyes staring back at me. Something stirred behind me, a dark shape moving in the shadows. I spun around, heart racing, but saw nothing. Then everything went still again, both the tapping and the oppressive silence. My mind raced, but I couldn't find clarity. Just as I started to breathe again, a soft whisper floated through the air, sending chills racing up my spine. "Let us in." Someone was in the house. I took a step back, trying to process the words that hung in the air like smoke. "Who is there?" I called, my voice barely rising above a whisper. My heart roared in my chest, drowning out any rational thought. I felt lost in the uncertainty. Nothing responded, the only sound was the steady thump of my heart and the quiet hiss of the wind outside. I gripped the knife tighter, instinctively moving toward the living room, straining to catch any hint of movement. The entire house felt foreign, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Then, the tapping started up again. It came from overhead this time, sharp and urgent. My eyes darted toward the staircase leading to the second floor. I hadn't thought about anyone being upstairs. The thought sent a bolt of dread through me. I couldn't remember the last time I had checked it. Hello. I called again, pretending to be brave. There was no answer, just that relentless tapping growing more insistent. It felt like a countdown. I hesitated, then crept toward the stairs, each step creaking under my weight. As I moved upward, the air felt heavier, thickened by fear. I flipped on the hallway light at the top, and the flickering glow illuminated the gloom. The tapping ceased abruptly, plunging me back into silence. I paused, muscles tensed. Every instinct told me to go back, but the urge to investigate was stronger. I stepped forward into the hallway, heart racing. Every door was closed. I approached the first one slowly, hand resting on the doorknob. The familiar chill settled in my bones, but I pushed the door open. The room was empty. Just a guest room, perfectly still. I turned, contemplating the second door, when a sound from behind made me whirl around. It came from the attic. A soft thump followed by a shuffling noise. That was where I had seen the shadows moving before. My breath caught in my throat. What could possibly be up there? I backed away, mental alarms blaring. Then I remembered the small footprints outside. Were they still lingering nearby? Had the figure from before come inside, infiltrated my safe space? The anxiety clawed at me, desperate and wild. I turned toward the attic door, my resolve shaking. If I didn't confront this now, I knew it would haunt me forever. My hand hesitated on the latch, hand trembling as I pushed it open. The darkness loomed above, thick and foreboding. Just then, I spotted something scattered across the attic floor, small, white pieces that looked like bones. My stomach twisted. Then I heard it again. A whisper, more of them this time, rising within the shadows. Let us in. With newfound fear, I felt something cold brush past me, and I realized, whatever was in the house was not alone. The chill in the attic wrapped around me, a biting reminder of the danger lurking in the darkness. The whispering grew louder, as if the shadows were moving closer. Let us in, the words echoed in my mind, squeezing my throat tighter. I squinted, trying to pierce the darkness, when suddenly, the floor creaked beneath me. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The sound was followed by a rustle, like something shifting in the corner. I fought the urge to bolt, reminding myself that running wouldn't solve anything. I stepped back, closer to the attic door, when I noticed a glimmer of white on the floor. It was a small object, half buried under dust and shadows. I bent down, heart racing. As I reached for it, a sudden gust of cold wind swept through the attic, causing the door to rattle behind me. I pulled my hand back, breathing heavily. The whispering intensified, as if urging me to take the plunge. Let us in, they begged again, the voices cold and insistent. I didn't want to listen, but curiosity gnawed at me. What if the tiny object was a clue? With a shuddering breath, I grasped the white object tightly and lifted it into the dim light. It was a small, cracked porcelain doll's head. My breath hitched as I examined it. Its eyes seemed to follow me, dull and vacant. A chill ran down my spine. I thought of the footprints outside, the strange shadow, and the warning. This doll, what did it mean? I quickly glanced around the attic, half expecting to see someone or something lurking in the corners. The shuffling noise began again, this time right behind me. My heart pounded as I spun around, knife ready. Who is there? I shouted, feigned bravado fading as panic surged through me. Only silence answered, but then I noticed something. The attic window, which I had presumed locked, was ajar, creaking with the wind. That wasn't right. I hadn't opened it, nor had I felt a draft before. I took a cautious step toward it, drawn by a strange gravity. As I neared, a quicker tap-tap began on the window, echoing the earlier sounds. My heart raced. Had something come in? Let us in, the whisper returned, now layered with voices. They echoed in the walls, circling around me like ghosts seeking solace. I turned my back to the window, realizing I needed to get out. All my instincts screamed for me to run. But before I could move, there was a sudden crash. It resonated through the attic, rattling the beams. I jumped, adrenaline spiking. The weight of the atmosphere pressed down on me. No! I gasped, turning toward the sound. Then, everything went dark. The attic light flickered and died, plunging me into utter blackness. My heart hammered in my chest as panic gripped me. I stumbled backward, reaching blindly for the door. A frigid hand grasped my arm, holding me in place. Let us in, the whisper surged, no longer a plea but a desperate command. Fear tore through me as I felt myself being pulled into the shadows. I had to break free. I struggled, managing to scream, "Get away from me." But my voice was swallowed by the night. I gasped, jolted into awareness as my body hit the floor. The solid would knock the breath out of me. I blinked in the darkness, straining to focus my eyes, but every angle was consumed by blackness. Panic clawed at my chest. "Is anyone here?" I whispered. In response, a soft scratch echoed from the corner of the attic. It was a fragile sound, almost playful, and I felt a chill crawl along my spine. I pressed my palms against the floor, trying to steady my racing heart. The air was thick and stale, and every breath felt like it carried the whispers along with it. I crawled cautiously toward the source of the noise. Each sound another scratch, a faint rustle seemed to taunt me as I made my way forward. I picked up the porcelain doll's head, its cold surface grounding me even as the fear surged in my veins. Maybe it had something to tell me. The scraping noise grew louder, whirling around me. I knew I shouldn't, but I felt compelled to lift the doll's head closer to my face, scanning the darkness for anything that didn't belong. Suddenly, a gust of icy wind blew past, and all at once, the hairs on my arms stood on end. I gasped something was wrong. Then, I heard a soft giggle. It was high-pitched and echoed like a bell, but there was no joy in it. "Who is there?" I cried out, my voice betraying me, wavering in fear. The laughter stopped as abruptly as it had begun. Silence swallowed the sound, but I sensed something shifting in the dark. I scrambled back on my hands, reaching blindly for the attic door. I still hadn't turned on my phone's flashlight. It felt like a heavy weight was pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. That's when I saw it, a figure, faint and shrouded in shadows, hovering near the window. I strained to see better, but the darkness obscured everything except for the outline. A small shape, maybe the height of a child. A chill ran through me. "Get away from the window!" I shouted, though my voice trembled. The figure didn't move, but I could see something long and thin slowly extending from the shadow. An arm. A finger. I swallowed hard and made myself rise to my feet, feeling for the knife in my pocket. "Just go away!" I shouted again, panic giving my words weight. But then it spoke softly, sweetly, "Let us in." I felt sick. The same refrain from before, now repeated in a sing-song voice that curled around my thoughts. The cold seeped deeper into my bones. My instinct told me to run, but before I could think clearly, the figure raised its arm as if to wave. I rushed toward the door, arms flailing. My fingers brushed the handle, but my feet stumbled, and I crashed into something solid. My breath hitched as I landed on the ground again. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a bundle of tattered fabric near the window. Something fluttered above me, and I realized that the attic door was slowly creaking open, revealing a sliver of yellow light from below. I hesitated, torn between the darkness behind me and the promise of safety. The figure in the window seemed to merge with the shadows, disappearing. I heard footsteps echoing down the stairs, closing in. I scrambled toward the door, heart racing. I had to escape. The whispers grew frantic again. "Let us in." I lunged for the door, ready to plunge into the light, but something pulled me back, anchoring me in place. "Don't leave," that childlike voice cooed, echoing in my mind. I froze, caught between fear and the unknown. But I couldn't wait for clarity. I had to choose. I felt the air shift again, heavy and thick around me. The whispers intensified. "Stay with us," they were insistent now, almost urgent. My heart raced at their call. I couldn't linger, couldn't be mesmerized by the draw of their voices. With a burst of determination, I threw myself toward the opening door, the light pulling me in like a lifeline. I could hear the faint sound of laughter again, but it was fading, becoming distant. I reached the threshold, my fingers gripping the doorframe, blood pounding in my ears. Just as I stepped through, a cold hand grasped my ankle, tightening its grip. I stumbled and fell, scraping my palms on the wooden floorboards just beneath the attic door. I looked back in horror. The figure was back, now fully defined. A child's face, pale and ghastly, with eyes that glinted like darkened glass. "Please don't go," it pleaded, and the sorrow in its voice made my stomach twist. I could see its bony fingers wrapped around my leg, leaving a feeling like ice on my skin. "Let me go," I shouted, kicking at the shadow clutching me. It felt ethereal, almost fog-like, and as my foot made contact, I recoiled at the strange sensation. The child's grip faltered but didn't break. Shadows shifted and swayed, every corner of the attic alive with unseen eyes. I quickly surveyed the room, looking for anything I could use as a weapon. My gaze fell on the tattered fabric near the window, a long, ripped sheet, frayed at the edges. Maybe I could use it to pull away the thing holding me. With urgency, I reached for it, while still kicking my leg. I could feel the grip loosen inch by inch, and soon I had the sheet clutched in my fist. I waved it around wildly, using it to create distance. "Leave me alone," the figure wailed, its voice a haunting echo in the air. "You can't leave." The sound was filled with dread, drifting through the room like smoke. Finally, with one last kick, I broke free, tumbling headfirst into the vibrant glow spilling from the open door. I didn't look back. I scrambled down the stairs two at a time, my heart hammering in my chest. Once on the ground floor, I slammed the door behind me, and leaned against it, gasping for air. My hands shook as I felt for my phone to illuminate the dark corners of the hall. The cold, unsettling sensation lingered on my ankle. I steadied my breath, trying to process what had just happened. "It was just a trick of the dark," I whispered to myself. But deep down, the uncertainty clawed at me. Why did it feel so real? Just as the glow from my phone flickered to life, I caught sight of something darting across the hallway. My heart jolted. Something was there. That wasn't just my imagination. I turned and carefully edged back toward the kitchen, where the light seemed warm and welcoming. But before I could reach it, the soft laughter returned, twirling around me like a thread of smoke, tightening its grip again. "Come back," I froze. I hadn't imagined it. The whispers, the figure, it wasn't over. And in that moment, I realized with a chilling certainty that whatever was in the attic had followed me. I bolted toward the kitchen, instincts kicking in. The feeling of being watched weighed heavily on my shoulders. I had to get somewhere safe, somewhere with light. My phone's light flickered again, the beam wavering as if it too sensed the darkness closing in. "Just keep moving," I muttered to myself, putting one foot in front of the other. With each step, the laughter grew louder, echoing in my ears like muffled bells. Suddenly, a loud thud came from the living room. My stomach dropped. I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. Should I check it out or keep running? I knew I had to confront whatever had invaded my space, but nothing felt normal anymore. I made my way through the doorway, the shrill laughter stopping abruptly as I entered. The living room was still, save for the flickering light from the shadows crawling along the walls. The threat of something lurking behind the antique furniture sent shivers down my spine. That is when I saw it, a small object on the ground. I bent down to pick it up, and the moment my fingers brushed against the cold surface, chills shot through me. It was a tiny wooden soldier, its paint chipped and faded. I froze. Memories flooded back, images of childhood play, laughter bouncing from the walls. It was my brother's toy. But my brother hadn't wanted to play in this house for years. That thought made my heart race. In a rush of adrenaline, I scanned the room, looking for any signs of movement. The air felt thick, drawing tighter around me. You're just being silly, I told myself. It's just an old doll. But as I straightened up, I caught a glimpse of something in the corner, a shadow darting past the window. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't waste time. I bolted toward the kitchen again, praying for the safety of the room with the warm light. Just as I reached the doorway, I heard a soft whisper behind me. Come back, please. I spun around, but there was nothing. Only the stillness of the living room, now too quiet. Sweat trickled down my back, and my heart thudded painfully in my chest. I needed to leave. Gathering my resolve, I dashed toward the back door, hoping to escape. But as I reached for the doorknob, it turned all by itself, creaking open with an eerie squeal. My breath escaped me. There, silhouetted in the moonlight, stood the figure of the child again, with those haunting eyes fixed on mine. The smile that crept across its face was not the innocent grin of a child, it was chilling, almost sinister. Please don't go, it whispered, the laughter creeping back. As I stumbled backward, the door swung shut on its own, sealing me in with that figure. I could feel the walls closing in. It was then that I knew I had to face whatever this was, or it would never let me be free. But just as the child took a step closer, everything went dark. The lights flickered out, leaving me enveloped in the suffocating blackness. My pulse raced. I needed to figure out how to escape, but I was utterly alone in that silence. Then, I heard a faint sound, a single heartbeat, in perfect rhythm with my own. Whatever was in the shadows was not done yet. I jolted awake on the kitchen floor, heart pounding. The light flickered back to life above me, illuminating the room in a warm glow. I squinted, momentarily disoriented, and took a shuddering breath, reminding myself that I was still here. Still alive. My phone lay beside me, lit up with multiple missed calls and messages that I hadn't noticed before. I grabbed it, my hands shaking, and saw several notifications from friends and family, concerned about my well-being. Are you okay? Where are you? They seemed so distant now, yet their voices grounded me in reality. I stood gingerly, testing my legs, and moved to the back door, checking for any evidence of a lingering presence. But the child's figure was gone. The laughter had faded, leaving an eerie stillness. My stomach churned. I didn't understand if I had escaped or if it was just lying in wait. Stepping cautiously outside, I felt the crisp night air hit my skin like a splash of cold water. The snow blanketed everything, peaceful and untouched. I glanced back at the house, where shadows lurked but showed no signs of life. A part of me wanted to stay and uncover the secrets that haunted those walls, but the fear that gripped my heart was too strong. I walked away, leaving my coat draped on the floor, and headed down the street, fingers fumbling for my phone. I dialed emergency services, needing to report something. The operator answered, and I found myself rambling about strange happenings, whispering laughter, and unsettling shadows. They promised to send help, but would they believe me? As I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. I glanced back at my old bungalow. It appeared normal, yet the darkness within felt alive, alive with echoes of what had happened. The questions swirled in my mind. What was that child? What did it want? Why was it drawn to me? And then there were the footprints. Those tiny, haunting shapes that had led out into the woods. I glanced over my shoulder as if expecting to see them fade into the distance. Were they real? Or merely figments born from my own unraveling mind? The sirens wailed in the distance, breaking through the haze of my thoughts. Relief washed over me at the promise of safety, but just for a moment. Standing there, watching the lights flash against the snow, I felt an ache of unease settle within me. I had escaped, but at what cost? I moved, arriving at the police car as it rolled up. Officers emerged, with comforting smiles that melted some of my fear. But the shadows behind them still loomed large in my mind. I glanced back at the house one last time, but it stood quiet, untouched. Perhaps it had all been a trick of the mind, a manifestation of my fears. Or maybe it was something darker, something waiting for the moment I dared to return. After giving my statement, as the officers reassured me, I felt their presence was thin protection against the memories swelling in my mind. I walked away, a part of me still tethered to that haunted place. Alone in the city, the echo of giggles and whispers lingered, threadbare and haunting, spinning around me. As I lay in bed that night, I could swear I still heard a child's voice calling softly from a distance, lingering just beyond the realm of understanding. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes, I wonder if the figure still waits there in the snow, if the whispers still chase shadows in the dark. But mostly, I try not to think about it.